I apologize in advance. I'm battling a bit of something, and I'm feeling a bit foggy this morning. So I'm hoping that this presentation might be a bit more of a group participation activity. I've outlined a presentation that will go over some of the things that Ontario Sheep Farmers has been working on over the past year and what's on our radar coming up. But if you think I'm missing something, which is a legitimate concern this morning, or you have questions or comments or just something that you want to share, please just put up your hand and we can take this presentation wherever you want to go this morning. To start off, I will mention, for those of you who don't already know, in October we did officially change our names, so we are now operating as the Ontario Sheep Farmers. And with that came some rebranding, and so you're going to start seeing a lot of that rebranding being rolled out over the next year. In late November, I think it was, we launched our new website for those who haven't seen it, so it looks pretty spectacular, but I'm perhaps a bit biased on that one. I may, however, excuse me, still refer to us as Ozma, in which case I think somebody will charge me a fine or I might get my knuckles rapped. But that will most likely happen this morning at some point. So to start off, in terms of what Ontario Sheep Farmers does, I'd say from my perspective and my role, about 95% of what I do is advocacy or lobbying. So whether we are advocating on your behalf to the government or to other commodity groups or to you as producers, it's what we spend the majority of our time on. And this word cloud here just highlights some of the things that we have been working on. Predation is a big one. It's getting its own slide, and I'll fill you in on that in a minute. But we have been spending a lot of time this year on the risk management program, which we successfully were able to lobby to keep it the same for this coming year. But we will be working with OMAFRA on revamping that program for the 2019 year. And that work is being done in conjunction with work that's being done nationally through the Ag Growth Coalition to look at restructuring the business risk management suite of programs nationally. So that's your Ag Stability, your AgriInvest programs. And the reason we want to do that is because the risks that you face as farmers has changed dramatically since those programs were first developed. And for a lot of producers, they're just simply not working anymore. We've also provided comments into the government on issues around the food guide and on the upcoming tax changes, the tax changes that the government was proposing, but thankfully rethought. The environment is also a big issue for us. So we've been engaged in conversations with the government around climate change and cap and trade. There's also issues around soil health and nutrient management and Lake Erie phosphorus. So I think I've captured, I do want to touch also on traceability. It's a big one. We have been very active in this file. It is a shining example of how long someone or a group of people can work on one topic. I think we have been talking about traceability and traceability regulations since 2003. And the Health of Animals Act is getting revamped to include traceability, and part of what we've been trying to do is make sure that you guys are aware of those upcoming changes. So in December, we did host a WebEx on traceability that was very well received, and there will be another WebEx on January the 10th. So if you want to register for that, please let Heather know. Heather's here today all day, and she'll make sure that you're registered for that WebEx. Excuse me. So in terms of predation, there's been quite a bit of activity. In January of 2017, there was a revamping of the wildlife damage compensation program. And so there were some changes in terms of the evidence that had to be provided and the standardized valuation model. Since the implementation of those changes, there has been a lot of feedback, both from producers and from investigators and from municipalities around the fact that this program's not working, and we've seen an increase in the amount of denied claims. Earlier this week, the provincial government announced that it will be going back and reevaluating the program. And the reevaluation is going to focus on the standards of evidence. So there is going to still be a need to ensure that there is evidence that a predation event happened. We will be looking at the appeals process, the reasonable care plans, and the standardized valuation model. And again, the provincial government is just emphasizing that they need this program to be evidence-based. This program is a cost-shared program with the federal government, and this review has to be done quite quickly because with the new funding program coming into place April 1st, fingers crossed, they will need this review up and ready to go for that new program. So Ontario sheep farmers will have a producer sitting on this review committee. They're going to be meeting 2 to 3 times probably in the next 4 or 5 weeks, and hopefully have a number of our concerns addressed. The one thing, I'm sorry. The one thing I will mention is part of what really helped us get this review in place is the fact that producers went into their municipalities and encouraged their municipalities to pass resolutions around the fact that this program was not working. And those resolutions were sent not only to Minister Leal, but also to Premier Wynne. And I just want to point that out because it's not just up to us as an organization to advocate on your behalf, but you as individual producers also play a really strong role in how we can advocate to get effective change in place. And so that was really great to see producers doing that. We got, I'd say close to 20 or 25 resolutions from municipalities across the province to make sure that this happened. There we go. Ontario Sheep Farmers also puts in quite a bit of both time and finances into research to help move the industry forward. And there is a presentation later today on antimicrobial use. It is a topic, it's going to impact the way you access medications for sure. And it's something that we should all be aware of, but understanding that our ability to access medications is limited, but we do have health challenges within our flock. We've opted to invest money in research that can give us alternative ways of managing flock health. So the University of Guelph is currently undergoing a research project on developing a toxoplasmosis vaccine here in the province. They do have a vaccine in other areas of the world, like New Zealand, but it is a modified live vaccine. It's also a human health hazard, and there's very little interest from any company to try to import it here. So we're trying to get it developed here, and so we can get it in the hands of Ontario producers. We're also working on a project with the University of Saskatchewan on developing a pneumonia vaccine. And Dr. Paula Menzies at the University of Guelph is working on a project to breed parasite resistance into our ewe flocks, because a lot of ewe flocks are suffering from I don't know how to get that down, are suffering from resistance to dewormers. The researchers in Alberta are looking at starting a research project that we're supporting on being able to detect whether an animal is pregnant and potentially their litter size based on bodily fluids, so either a saliva or a blood sample, which could be very beneficial. We've also invested in research for Dr. Paul Looms on the fiber requirements for market lambs. Another important project that we've been investing money in is with Dr. Andrea Jones at the University of Guelph on farmer mental wellness. So there's been an increase, for those of you who are on Twitter, you've probably seen a lot of this, an increase in awareness about the struggles that you face as farmers, oftentimes outside of your control, and how isolating that can be. And so she's really wanting to make sure that resources are in place to help people when they're hitting a rough patch. We did do work this past year on investigating the feasibility of a sheep finance program, and we had focus groups across the province to discuss this. And at our convention, the researchers or the consultants came and gave a presentation on it. Based on the recommendations from the consultants, it's not something that the Ontario Sheep Farmers is going to actively investigate at this time. Some of the recommendations are including work that we could do in terms of educating the banks and doing some financial awareness with producers prior to us investigating in a sheep finance program. The administrative costs of such a program would only save producers potentially less than 0.5% in interest. So it doesn't look at this point like it would be a good return on the work needed to get it up and running. I'll talk a little bit about the wool value chain on the next slide. The other work that we did this year is Dr. Rex Crawford did a pilot project on sheep flock health clubs. So again, this ties into accessing medications and the need to have a valid vet-client relationship and understanding that veterinarians can be expensive. The goal here is to make a veterinarian part of your management team and to get them to be part of your farm business prior to there being a problem. So this brought a group of producers together. Each producer would pay $100 to come to this club. They would talk about some of the health issues that they're facing on their farm. It would allow them the opportunity to develop that vet-client relationship with Rex, and also get some mentorship and support from other producers in the group. Rex came in and presented this to the board at our last board meeting and was really happy with how successful they've been, and he's going to be presenting these also to the small ruminant veterinarians of Ontario in hopes that some of the other vets across Ontario will start forming these sheep flock health groups. So in terms of wool, we have been increasing our activity around the wool and the wool industry. Dr. Nicole Klink, who is the woman on the far left there, she's an environmental policy researcher at the University of Toronto who's also an avid knitter. And she approached Ontario sheep farmers to get funding to map out the wool sheds within Ontario. And these pictures are actually from District 10's Wool Day, and has been very instrumental in increasing awareness about what we can do with wool, and linking us in with people who are incredibly interested in doing the farm to fiber or farm to fashion, I think is how they're terming it, and using local wool to create clothing. It's also part of the work. We do support the Campaign for Wool, which is a Prince of Wales charity, and they do a big celebration of wool every week in the fall, and they do that in conjunction with the Hudson Bay Company. So it's something that you're going to see us work more and more with. For those of you who are interested, on January 25th, they're having a conference at the University of Guelph on this farm to fashion idea, and it's the first Sunday in February. In Toronto, they're doing Land Made, which brings together wool spinners, wool producers, and fiber artists in one room. If you're interested in that, just let me know. We have more information on that. The other thing we've been working on is a price predictability tool, and it's taken us longer than we anticipated, but given the lack of data that this industry suffers from, it's pretty exciting that we even have one up and running now. It's on our website, and what you can do is you can go in, and the model will predict with a certain confidence interval where it thinks that the price is going to be for two weight classes, the 70-pound weights and the 100-pound weight classes. And then if you scroll down to the bottom of the website, you can actually punch in your own information. So what you paid for your feed and how much your animals weigh and the days that you want to market it, and it'll feed you back information in terms of whether or not, where it thinks your profit margin might land. Once you exit the program, all of the information you plugged in goes away. So no one's on the other end collecting this data, although I would desperately like to. They won't let me. So it's all confidential. You can go in there, you can play with it. So also, if you're going to go in there and play with it and something's not working or it's not making sense, let us know so we can get the guys at the university to tweak it for us. This past year, we also ran a number of on-farm euthanasia training courses for producers. And I just want to put this up because I would have to say in all my years working for the sheep industry, this is probably the best received program we have ever done. You guys were incredibly thankful that we put this on, and it is definitely something that people were interested in taking. And because of the overwhelming positivity that we heard, we are actively looking at how we can host this again and put on more courses like this for producers. In terms of national programs, we are active in making sure that producers do have access to the national suite of programs. So we do have the Codes of Practice, the Biosecurity, and the On-Farm Food Safety, which have just recently been combined into one larger program called the Canadian Verified Sheep Program. And we have trained people within the province of Ontario to be able to go and train you if you'd like to do a classroom type setting for training. And I know that the Canadian Sheep Federation is working on getting their training module online back up and running. So if you'd rather do that training at home, you can do that as well. If you have any questions about this or you want to have a classroom type training set up, let us know. We don't have any scheduled. We're kind of doing it on producer demand. So let us know if you want to have one. We are, in order to make it the best use of everybody's time and most efficient, we are looking for about 15 people to be interested for us to hold a classroom training session. The other program that we've been working on, excuse me, Ontario Sheep Farmers partners with CPOC, which is the Centre of Excellence for Ovine Production in Quebec, and the CSBA to make sure that producers have access to Genovis. So there's 3 ways with the genetic evaluations that you can input your data. You can do it yourself. You contact CPOC and they provide you with a password and you can input your data. You can get CPOC to enter it for you, or for those of you who use BioTrax, they will input your data for you as well. We have just launched Genovis genetic evaluations for the dairy industry, and the dairy sheep producers in northern New York State are going to be also using this for their genetic evaluations. Made Vizna is also a program that we run out of our office or administer out of our office. We have producers actually from across Canada on this program. The way it works is Quebec also has a very similar program, and they tend to focus on the French-speaking producers, and if they get any English-speaking producers interested, they send them to us. We are seeing a large, what I would consider to be a large increase in participation on this program, and especially in the dairy sheep sector, because you can see the benefits of managing Made in your flocks quite immediately in terms of milk production. The other program that we're going to be launching comes out of work that we did. OMAFRA came to us about almost 2 years ago now and said that we're going to give you some money, you have to figure out how to benchmark your industry, make it happen. And so from that work, we came up with UGrow. And you can't see this very well, unfortunately, I apologize, but there are a couple of benchmarks that have been highlighted that producers in our focus group indicated that they wanted records on. So number of ewes bred, number of lambs born, number of lambs weaned, and it goes on. That what we're stumbling on right now, and I'm working with OMAFRA on, is the definitions, to make sure that when I say to you number of ewes bred, we're talking about the same thing. It's very clear in chatting with some of the producers that we say these words to each other, but we're not always talking about the same thing. We don't define number of ewes bred the same way. So we've got to get that straightened out. But our goal is to encourage producers to start providing this information to us anonymously so that we can start looking at how we're doing as an industry in terms of production. And then we have a set of benchmarks from competing jurisdictions, so New Zealand and Australia, and we can compare how we're doing with some of our competing jurisdictions who are supplying, millions of kilograms of product into our market every year. So that wraps up the programs and what we're doing. Just in terms of keeping in touch with us, we are always looking to make sure that we are able to contact you and provide you with information and get you engaged in what we're doing. So we do have our Facebook page set up and our Twitter feed, which is @OntarioSheep, and our newsletter, and the messenger is our electronic newsletter. If you do not get this, if you don't get lovely emails from us twice a month, please let us know. It's our fastest way of reaching you, and we do have a sign-up sheet here at the table. It's important that we're able to know where you are. And this is our lovely new website, which we're all very proud of. We really like it. The other thing, just before I sign off and take questions, I just want to thank, there are people who are not sitting around our OSMA board table, our Ontario Sheep Farmers board table, who work very hard to help move this industry forward. They sit on other boards representing us. They are part of our committees. And I just list them here because they deserve to be acknowledged for the work that they're putting in behind the scenes and for their volunteer time into your organization. So with that, I guess I'll take questions.
Stand up when you give your question. Jane, under the research fiber requirements for market lambs, what is the focus of that research and where is it going?
Good question. Pardon? Yeah, it's Paul Loom's Nutrition Project. I can get you more information if you want on that. Like off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact objectives of the project, but I can get that for you. If you want to give me your email, I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Dr. Menzies from the university is retiring as
Yeah,
we speak.
I know.
Is someone taking over her project?
So Dr. Menzies is retiring, and it's not something I like to talk about. But she is still sticking around to do research and to do some work, and the university is currently interviewing 3 people for her position who have an interest in small ruminant medicine. So she's not totally gone off the landscape, and the work that she's currently engaged in will continue under her guidance for sure. There's one right here.
On the matter of predation, we've been relatively successful, and I say that very cautiously, about fencing and canine control, etc. But as we remove the four-legged predators, we're now having to deal with the ravens.
Yeah.
They become a bigger problem
Yeah.
than the coyotes. And is there any emphasis being placed on that? Because I understand I really can't dispose of them like I can a coyote.
No, it's you know, the short answer to your question is no. It's sort of stymied all of us. It's ravens and fishers and all these little, like the list is growing on animals that want to eat lamb. So we don't have a definite plan right now to answer your question, Don, but it is something that's on our radar, for sure. Is that everything? Okay, thanks. And thanks for your patience, guys. I apologize for being so stuffy.
Great, thanks, Jen.